Hello, everyone. As you are logging on, this is Stephanie with Water Education Colorado. We are going to start here in just a couple minutes. You guys are all currently placed on mute, so you guys will not be able to speak. I'll go over that in a little bit. But right now, you all should see the cover slide that says 2018 Water Leaders Program. If you cannot see that and you cannot hear me for whatever reason, you can type in down in the chat button that should be up on your screen, the chat column, and let me know if you are having any screen errors or you cannot see my screen. But we'll get started in a couple minutes. Thanks for calling in, everyone. We're just waiting a couple minutes as everyone gets dialed in and logged in. If you're having trouble seeing my screen, please shoot me a message in the chat function on your dashboard and let me know. Otherwise, we're just waiting here and we'll get started. All right, let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to push record here really quick and make sure we're all set up to go, and then we'll get started. Okay, let's do this. Welcome, everyone. My name is Stephanie Scott, and you are all chiming in today here to get some information about our upcoming Water Leaders program. We do this webinar annually, so we have a couple updates from past years, so that's exciting. So for those of you tuning in for maybe a second year, we do have some updates to provide you. Thank you so much, all of you, for your interest in the program, but also for taking the time today to learn about the program a little bit deeper to help with your application process. So again, my name is Stephanie Scott. I am the Leadership and Education Program Manager here at Water Education Colorado. I myself am a Water Leader graduate. I was in the program in 2015 with my prior employer, Colorado Trout Unlimited. And last year was my first year working here at Water Education Colorado and my first year running the program. Before we get into the meat of the webinar, I just have a couple of housekeeping items. All of you on the phone, you are all muted. We have over 70 people that have registered for this, and so to keep noise down and to organize the structure a little bit better, everyone is muted. If you have questions or if you can't hear me or anything like that, you can find your chat function on your dashboard, your dash bar. I don't know what the official word is, but it says chat. And I'm going to type a message to everyone right now so you can see where that comes in. So everyone should have gotten my message that says hello. You will reply to that to ask any questions throughout here. I will be feeding or sort of filtering all the questions as they come in, so please do. If you have questions throughout the webinar, you can type them into this chat function and I will be documenting all of them. There will be space at the end of the webinar. We have about 15 minutes, so we can make sure we adequately answer all of your guys' questions. But you don't have to wait to the end to submit those, so please do. If you have questions throughout, go ahead and shoot them to me. If we, for whatever reason, answer those along the way, then we won't need to answer them at the end, but please just keep the questions coming, and we'll make sure to get all of your guys' questions answered at the end of the session. You all will be receiving a recording of this. The recording is going to be of not only the audio version, but you will be able to see the slides as well progressing. So don't have to worry about taking notes of everything. You guys will get the complete webinar with the recording. All right, so we are Water Education Colorado. For most of you, I'm sure you recognize us as the Colorado Foundation for Water Education. We are currently undergoing a new name change and a new brand change here at the nonprofit, but our mission still stays the same. Our great programs are still going to be staying the same. If you have any questions about our transition, we'd love to hear from you guys. But the program Water Leaders is still like our flagship program here at Water Education Colorado, and our overall mission as an organization is to promote a better understanding of Colorado's water resources and issues. Just real quick, I'll cover some of the other programs that you might be familiar with that we are still continuing to do and improve. So our Citizens Guide series are a series of 9 different guides, including a Citizen's Guide to Water Law, Water Quality, Interstate Compacts, Transbasin Diversions, to name a couple. And those are guides that we offer for class sets, or you can purchase them individually to use in your education programming. And then our second main content program is Headwaters Magazine. This is a photo of our newest issue, all on alternative transfer methods. And that should have hit your inboxes. If you're a member, you will get that just a couple weeks ago. We are undergoing, with our new brand change, our new website, and so we will have new content. We're going to be hiring some program staff on to cover more water news and water issues in the state. And so stay tuned to all the fun stuff we got going as far as content and covering water issues across the state. The second area of our programs is our leadership and education programs, which are the programs that I manage. We're going to be hearing plenty about water leaders today, so I won't go into that too much, but the other 3 areas that I manage are water fluency program. That program is really designed for people that feel like they need a little bit boost in their water knowledge to make better decisions in whatever their profession may be. And that is running this year. It'll be our 4th year running that program, and it'll be 3 different class sessions between May and July in the Colorado Springs to Pueblo corridor. So if you have questions about that, let me know. We also do a variety of tours. Our biggest tour we do every year is a 2-day tour on a bus with about 60 people. Last year we did it in the Southwest Basin, and this year we're going to be doing that in the Rio Grande Basin, and that'll be in June. And then the other programs that I run are the Water Educator Network, which is a collaborative environment for educators and outreach professionals all over the state to come together to share best practices and resources on all things water. So those are just a brief snapshot of what are the other programs that Water Education Colorado offers, and to get into the nuts and bolts of what we're here today to do. So our agenda for this webinar is we're going to cover what is Water Leaders, what is the program, and then we'll talk a little bit about what to expect from Water Leaders, so what we have set up and scheduled for all of you interested applicants this year. And then on the phone, we do have 3 alumni from last year's class to come and give their perspective on what the class meant for them as participants. We'll review the application process and what all you need to do to ensure that you get your materials in. We'll talk briefly about a financial commitment and some creative ideas around potentially getting some sponsors to help fund your tuition. We have someone here, Dennis Yankunes, who is with St. Vrain Left Hand Canyon Water Conservation District, and he's going to be talking about his role as a sponsor and employer to provide a little insight on the benefits that employers gain from supporting their employees to go through the program. And then, of course, the most important thing for all of you is the question and answer session at the end. The Water Leaders program is going on, this will be the 10th or the 11th class that we have gone through. And the goal of the program, you can read here on the screen, but it is to positively impact the Colorado water profession by developing a pipeline of emerging water leaders. And we do this through a very rigorous process. We have a very rigorous application process that helps us, make sure that we have a diverse class and that we are addressing, the skills needed on the current context of the complex water world. And so we'll get into a little bit more of that in just a couple minutes. So the Water Leaders Program is run by Water Education Colorado, and we hire on a consultant. You can see her here, that's Cheryl Benedict, and she works for Morph Consulting. But the combination of us managing the program and her facilitating the experiences and the content equals the premier professional development program for the water community here in Colorado. So here is Cheryl again. This time she's flying a helicopter. So Cheryl is amazing. She has been now running our Water Leaders Program. This will be her 6th year running the program. And she comes with over 26 years of experience doing executive coaching, leadership development, team building, communication coaching of all different types, strategic planning, succession planning, really, she does it all. One of the most common things that I hear year after year from water leader graduates is that after they graduate, they always want to still call Cheryl, and they still need Cheryl as a resource, and they can never get enough of Cheryl. So she is all of our senseis and Sherpas, and she's our Yoda, and she really walks everyone through the program and makes the program as deep and meaningful as it is. So with that, I am going to let Cheryl share a little bit about the program expectations and what her role is as our consultant. All right, Cheryl, are you there?
I am. Thank you, Stephanie. So what I'd like to cover is just the expectations, just so you have a sense of what you might want to commit to. So leadership development is very much of a personal endeavor that's enhanced by the assessments and collaboration with others, but it is very much of a personal endeavor. And so what's meant by that is that you make a commitment, you put your whole self in, you engage, and the return on the investment you get has everything to do with what you put into it. And I'm sure that Troy and Logan and Heather will confirm that later. Leadership development works best if you've got people in your life who know that you're engaged in it, your supervisor, people who are working with you so that they can support you in the growth and development of the goals you have, the competencies you're building, and they can be there to recognize and celebrate your success. As Stephanie alluded to, you'll get to know me very well because we'll talk every single month in an executive coaching relationship where you'll talk about, honestly, what are you up against personally and professionally? What are the challenges inherent in what you're doing? And we'll talk through it in a very honest, real, trusted advisor kind of way. I think this next bullet point's the most important in that you are responsible for your own development. That's not only true for this program, but it's true throughout your entire career, that your engagement and your commitment and your willingness to show up and to be genuine and authentic will be the guide for how much you get out of it. And then one of the coolest things that I love about this program is that after every single session, we get your feedback through the lens of plus delta. What are the things that you really appreciated and we shouldn't change? Delta is what could we change to be even more effective? And Stephanie and I care deeply about that. And actually, we will customize and tailor each class based upon the feedback that we get. So this is not some boring, off-the-shelf, boilerplate kind of thing. It's alive in that we will even customize it based upon what the needs of the class are. Next slide.
Right.
So how do leaders develop? Well, they develop in 3 ways. They develop through education and training. They develop through receiving coaching and mentoring, both internally within the organization, but also externally. And they develop by getting job experience, stretch assignments. Our Water Leader program is very intentional in that we incorporate all three of these. So what to expect? Here are the 4 sessions that we'll be engaging in. Session 1 is April 5th and 6th in Keystone, and the theme is myself as a leader. In the first session, it's very much focused on yourself as a leader in terms of what distinguishes great leaders from just good ones. And one of the things that I'm aware of is to have a heightened sense of emotional intelligence, which is defined as self-awareness. And so you'll notice in the very first session is very heavily front-loaded with assessments where you really get to know yourself and understand yourself through many different lenses. So the first session, we launch it with a Myers-Briggs workshop, with which most every water leader I've ever talked to says was the highlight of the first session, because it's interactive, it's fun, light bulbs are going off, there are ahas, people have a sense of, oh my God, I've been misinterpreting this behavior of my coworker for years. Now I get it, they're an introvert. So it lends to a sense of compassion and appreciation for not only yourself, but for how others are different from you. We also do a deep dive into the book, The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team, which is a book we'll read together, where you look at how do you build trust in your team? How do you engage in healthy conflict? How do you get a commitment out of people so that you can hold each other accountable to get the end result? So the first session is very much about a deeper dive into yourself, and one of the fun things we do is we look at what are your top 5 strengths through the lens of StrengthsFinder, and how can you use those strengths or maximize, leverage those strengths to deal with real-time situations that you're up against at work. And so it becomes highly applicable and highly practical. One of the things that I've loathed over the years of seeing other leadership development programs is it's so theoretical and ethereal. That's not this. This is highly actual, factual, concrete, and applicable to the real life situation that you've got going on at work and in your life. Session 2 is at Redstone, which is a gorgeous location that Stephanie secured for us last year. May 17th and 18th, we'll be focusing on how do you navigate change and the transition that ensues from that, and how do you creatively solve problems. One of the things about Session 2 is we'll get to hear from other leaders how they have grappled with change and creative problem solving in the real world of our water profession. And we'll get to have a leader unplug who talks about the battle scars and the lessons learned and the best practices. So you walk away with not only what the best researchers have to say about this, but also real live people talking about how they've implemented these in their lives. It's also an opportunity to look at the article from the Harvard Business Review on managing your boss. How do you manage your boss? How do you manage a board of directors? How do you manage up effectively so that you're able to navigate all the relationships in the work that you encounter? Our third session is in June 20th, 29th in Salida. The focus is constructive conflict and communication. This is an opportunity to look at Myers-Briggs through the lens of conflict and Myers-Briggs through the lens of communication. What is your communication style? What are the things that matter to you with regard to people giving you feedback, or when they're communicating to you? What are the things that you need? You'll have an opportunity to really explore that, but perhaps one of the richest aspects of this session is getting to learn from your classmates what are the things that they need. And then you can extrapolate that to, well then, one of my classmates is the exact same Myers-Briggs type as my boss. That explains a lot. Now I know when I talk to this person how to communicate to them in a way that they can hear it, because we know that communication is not communication until it's received. So you may talk, but unless the person receives it the way you intended it, it's not truly the fulfillment of communication. And so we go into that with a lot of depth. And I care a lot about that because I'm a communications major in college along with a psychology major. So I try to incorporate that into session 3. And then we conclude session 4 in August 9th and 10th in Denver, where we talk about how do we apply all this? How do we take it to the streets? How do we build a water community of practice? We'll discover potential workplace habits that can get in the way of your success. We'll have an opportunity to learn about your shadowing experiences with 2 water professionals that you've spent a lot of time with. We'll have an opportunity to build a career development plan for your future and to build a community of practice plan where you identify, here are the relationships in the water community that I want to cultivate, nurture, and stay connected to as I move through my career. So the final slide I want to show you is what to expect. So you'll notice on the left-hand side there are 4 assessments that you'll be engaged in. There's actually 5 if you count the 5 dysfunctions of a team assessment, where you actually diagnose the health of the team that you're on, either at work or in a volunteer capacity you choose. So you will be doing the Myers-Briggs type indicator, Strength Finder. Both of those you'll do before we actually meet together. Then we'll do the Harrison assessment, which you'll do between session 1 and 2, which is this in-depth personality assessment that looks at what are the essential traits of being an effective leader, what are the desirable traits, and which of those traits do you enjoy? Those traits might you want to develop to become increasingly more effective in your career. And then around session 3, we'll do the Enneagram assessment, which we did for the very first time last year. And I believe this is an assessment that takes us across the finish line in terms of really understanding what are our key motivations and desires as leaders, but also insight into others. I've found it to be a very profound tool. You'll notice that cohorts group is here. What that is you'll be a part of a cohort group of 3 other water leaders. I would have to say that this is where the heavy lifting occurs, because in a group of 16 that can seem somewhat daunting, especially if you're an introvert. So when you get together in your cohort group, which meets every single month, which is facilitated by either Stephanie or myself, you have an opportunity to talk very candidly about what you're up against. And it's an opportunity to basically let it all hang out. Things that may not be appropriate to share with a larger group, where you can really say, man, I'm up against this and I could use some insight, some ideas, some wisdom of how to navigate this very challenging situation. And it may be personal, it may be professional, but it's built so that you get to invite the wisdom of the cohort to help you, to support you in whatever you're up against. And I'm sure that Troy and Logan and Heather may weigh in on that later as alumni as to how meaningful that's been for them. In fact, many cohort groups continue on way past water leaders because they find the meaning to be so significant. I mentioned earlier, you'll have an opportunity to select 2 water professionals from a comprehensive list that Stephanie has created that you actually get to engage in a shadowing relationship with. This will be as diverse as the person you're shadowing, but you'll have an opportunity to learn from them, to ask them any question you want to further your career or grow yourself. It's a really exciting and powerful thing that this program offers. There will be homework. We expect you to do it. Then coaching with me. So we'll have one-on-one meetings every month. You'll take on a professional personal growth project, and you'll do a lot of personal career development. I spent 10 years as a career counselor. So I can't help but ask you, where are you now in your career? Where do you want to be? And how do we get you there? So many of our coaching calls will also be strategic in nature, where we're talking about how can you build the competencies and skills to get to where you want to go. Every session, at least session 3, will have a leader Unplugged. I love this. This has only been in place for the last 2 years, but what this is we'll bring someone in from the community, whether it's a past water leader alum or whether it's somebody who has got a fascinating story to tell, but we get to hear the behind the scenes of what went on, not the prime time, but the unplugged version, battle scars and all. What has that person been through? What are the lessons learned? If only they could have done it differently, how might they have changed? And it's an incredible opportunity to someone to find out what is it that they've done or did in a particular situation. We're going to be engaging in a 360 networking exercise, which is an opportunity for you to ask 360 in all the areas of your life, 5 different questions about yourself as a leader and insight from them as to how you can become an even more effective leader. And what's cool about it is it won't be anonymous. You'll be able to then go to that person and say, tell me more, because I really care about growing. And then, without saying that this is the most incredible networking experience that I've ever seen, because you will bond like crazy. Water leaders, the relationships that are created are not only significant for the year 2018, they will continue throughout the rest of your career. And I believe that that's one of the richest experiences that you can look forward to.
Great. Thank you so much, Cheryl, for all of that in-depth detail and that deep dive into what our potential applicants could expect for the upcoming class. So I'm going to go real quick through the application or the acceptance requirements for the Water Leaders Program. This year, we have put a definition on what we at Water Education Colorado define as a leader. So we define a leader as someone who is dedicated to and is focused on the greater good of the water in Colorado. A leader is someone that recognizes the value of collaboration and respect and is open to diverse perspectives. And then we have also developed a series of minimum requirements that we like to see people have when they are applying for the program. And so I'm just going to run through these real quickly as well. Our first requirement is a proven past commitment. And we have a time limit here of, say, we have put a time limit of 3 years. So we would like to see that people have at least been in a water role in the water world for at least 3 years in Colorado. And the reason of this is so that you at least have some experience to bring to the class with you. But you also note here that there is no upper limit on the number of years that you have been in the water profession here in Colorado. You know, we acknowledge that, you know, even if you are at the highest level position, you can grow within your organization, that leadership development is still important, and that you can influence the culture at your place of work, which trickles out to the rest of the water community. So there's no upper limit, but we like to see at least 3 years of work underneath your belt. With that, a proven future commitment. So this program really works towards developing your career plan, towards providing expertise and that pipeline of water leaders in the state. And so we do like to see in your applications that you have a commitment to staying in the water community. A proven sphere of influence. I get probably more questions about this requirement than any, and essentially it comes down to the idea that, you know, am I a leader if I'm not managing people? And yes, you definitely are a leader. And so leadership comes in a variety of different ways, and we recognize that it always doesn't come in the form of hierarchy on an org chart. So this sphere of influence is an attempt to capture, you know, really what we are looking for when we are saying leader. So we're looking for people that through either leading programs or projects or partnerships or staff, if it is staff, that through those leadership relationships, you are elevating the future of our water community here in Colorado. Colorado focused, we have in the past gotten applicants from outside of Colorado. Currently the program is not designed for that. So you have to be a Colorado resident and work primarily in Colorado. Even you still can have work outside of Colorado, but most of your work has to be Colorado focused. Cheryl spoke to this a little bit, but the idea of full engagement is that, when you are enrolled in the class and you're participating, you're fully engaged. This is not primarily a networking opportunity, although you will develop relationships both with classmates and the rest of the water community very strongly. It is not a water training program, so while we speak water is our common language throughout the course because that's all the professions that we are coming from. It is not an actual training program on technicalities of water and technical issues and water law and water rights, all of that stuff. So it's not a training program. This is a full-on personal development leadership program that happens to be offered and designed just for the water community. I think that's it for that one. All right, so our last minimum requirement is 100% commitment. So Cheryl walked through what the homework and the sessions, the different possibly mentoring assignments that are out there that we are going to be asking you to do. It is required that you complete 100% of the homework and face-to-face sessions. And these are just a couple questions that you can think to yourself. If you have met those minimum requirements, here's just another way of thinking about those. So I'll lead us up here for just a minute. There is a frequently asked questions document on our website that you can download, and it dives deeper into some of these questions. So I highly recommend you go download that PDF and ask yourself some of these questions. I mentioned early on in the call that this is going to be our 11th class of water leaders. So we have a total of 143 graduates from the program so far. And this is a snapshot of the different water sectors and geographic diversity that those 143 people have represented. And here's just a snapshot of what some of the people are saying. So graduates demonstrate readiness to lead self and others and address conflict and diversity to effectively solve water problems here in the state. Employers also report positive skill outcomes and organizational benefits, which we'll hear a little bit more from Dennis about that. Here's also some quotes. You guys will all be getting this recording, so you can go back and read these in more detail, but here's just some of the insight that past participants have provided us through their program or after the program. So now we're going to get to our alumni testimony, and we have 3 people from last year's class, Logan, Troy, and Heather, and they're all going to cover briefly. I've asked them all to answer the question for you. How did the Water Leaders Program impact your career as a water professional in Colorado? So I'm going to unmute Logan. Logan, can you hear us?
I can.
All right, let me click to your slide. Perfect. So Logan is coming to us. She is currently a water resource engineer at South Metro Water Supply Authority, focusing on regional and collaborative projects, including the WISE project. So go ahead, Logan.
Thanks. So yeah, it'll probably be a lot of broken records here. I cannot speak highly enough about this program. It was a lot of fun. It was very intense at times, but I want to, before I forget, just say Cheryl and Stephanie are incredible and absolutely made this program so rich, so fun, and I think that globally, everyone who's taken this program with me this year would say those two just made this kind of a step above any other leadership program that I've heard other folks have taken. So a couple things that Stephanie had asked us to talk about. I'll kind of bounce around maybe a little bit, but I wanted to just touch on a few points for you guys that are thinking about joining. Definitely think about joining. It is incredible. One of the unexpected things that I saw was that it was a lot more raw and open than I expected, but in a really good way. One of the biggest things that helped me was just realizing, as everyone's being very honest about kind of the challenges that they've run into and some of their career development choices, there are a lot of people going through a lot of similar situations as you. And so it was really neat to connect with folks that I didn't know prior to going into this program and have some really beneficial conversations that are really, really honest, that helped to kind of navigate some workplace challenges or struggles, or just to brainstorm together. So that was a really cool kind of unexpected piece for me. So the cohort, so Troy is going to speak next, and he and I were in a cohort together, and I can't say enough how helpful and incredible our cohort was, and I think everyone across the board said the same thing. So Stephanie and Cheryl kind of craft your cohort based on your Myers-Briggs assessment. And so we had it really made sense once everyone got talking why we were all in groups together. So we actually have a cohort meeting that we're just going to try to continue next Monday. We're actually doing a happy hour. So it continues on if you want to continue on. And it's one of those things that the time goes so fast when you're in the program. All of a sudden we're at the final session and everyone is, really happy and sad, and wow, it just flew by. But there's opportunity to continue those relationships, and I'm really feeling fortunate that my cohort is willing to, and it's just basically like a miniature coaching session, just on our own, really dig into some of those deeper conversations. So one of the things too that I wanted to touch on was some of the things that we learned through the program. Like I said, it went really fast, but there were a lot of things to be able to apply kind of as we went. And so I had a staff member who was kind of struggling after one of my sessions, and so she and I sat down, and I've had her and others take some of the assessments that we took during Water Leaders and kind of continued that conversation internally, just kind of at a grassroots level. And I think that it was really beneficial to all of us, and to really solidify for me some of the things that I was learning and going through and kind of absorbing, because it kind of never ends, right? So you learn a lot about yourself, and Cheryl was not kidding when she's like, yeah, you have those like aha moments of, oh, okay, nope, that makes total sense now that I've gotten a chance to talk about it. So the time commitment was another piece that I just wanted to touch on. It is a lot of work, especially on the front end, but I found myself really looking forward to it. And so there is a big time commitment, and I think the most important thing is getting full support from your organization. And I was really, really fortunate to have that with my organization. And so I'd come back and kind of talk to them about what we had learned and try to apply. So it is a lot of time throughout well, it's less than a year, but I just looked forward to it so much that it didn't matter if I had to work a little bit at nights or was doing sessions, after my husband and son went to bed. It was really exciting. So I just wanted to touch on that. And yeah, really, I can't stress enough how incredible this group was that we had this year, how much I learned. I sought out people who were very different than I was, or people who had assessment scores or ratings similar to folks that I work with, to try to get different perspectives. And I'd really encourage you guys to think about that too, because you're in this huge room kind of spilling your guts to people you initially don't know very well, who are very different from you, and you really can learn a lot and apply it across a lot of areas of your life. So I could keep going. I know my time's up. I told you that the 5 minutes was going to be a struggle. Okay. So thank you so much for having me.
Thanks so much, Logan. Awesome. All right. So next we are bringing on Troy Wineland, and he is currently a water commissioner for Division 5, which is the Blue River Basin. And yeah, Troy, let me unmute you really quickly. Are you there, Troy?
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Stephanie.
Yes.
So I guess just to open up, I'll say that my name's Troy. I'm an INTP, and I am a recovering perceiver. You'll all learn to appreciate what I just shared shortly, very soon into the program next year. I first off definitely want to share with everyone, or echo what Logan expressed, and that's just the foundation, that the rock that Cheryl and Stephanie provide for this program. They are the heart and core of this program and are truly incredible and amazing. And thank you both for all you provided for all of us this past year.
Thank you, Troy.
Absolutely. So how has Water Leaders impacted my career as a water professional? In all honesty, I have to admit, and I think all of my fellow classmates would agree, that I have yet to fully realize the full impact and, I guess, benefits of the Water Leaders program. And I say that because the Water Leaders program, kind of harking back to what Cheryl said, it's very much a personal investment. You get out of it what you put into it, what you bring to the table, your willingness to participate and contribute and be vulnerable and be receptive to others' vulnerabilities, because you'll get into it quite quickly once you start the program. So I guess that's the first thing I just want to acknowledge is it's an ongoing process. And I think Cheryl also touched on the fact that leadership is very much a personal thing. The course and the program is very much geared towards developing your own personal leadership, your leadership of self, if you will. And I definitely want to share that and emphasize that for all of you aspiring applicants. There certainly are things, very tangible things that I could relate to you as far as what I learned in the 7-month program. First and foremost, I think just learning to better appreciate my own unique qualities and strengths that I bring to the table. And hopefully all of you will, I know you will all realize your own personal strengths and the areas upon which you can improve and grow. That's a big part of what I learned in those 6 months of the program. I guess honoring and cherishing my own unique perspectives and values. Another thing that was definitely a take-home message for me was just being a raging perceiver. And again, I know my cohorts are laughing right now. I've learned that I need to harness the judger, the unrealized judger in myself, and better identify my goals and establish goals and a better path for myself. Anyway, I am rambling on. I don't have much time left here. Some unexpected outcomes from my participation. I would say number one would just be the deep, sincere, sustaining friendships that will provide a foundation upon which I can rely on moving forward. And it's undeniably a result of showing up, being vulnerable, and participating in the group discussions, the cohort discussions, and the one-on-one sessions with Cheryl. And again, as Logan mentioned, our own cohort, hands down the best cohort ever. We are continuing our basically quarterly get-togethers and intend to do so into the foreseeable future. Key considerations for future participants. Again, I think I just want to stress or reemphasize. First and foremost, it's geared towards realization of self-leadership through the development and refinement of your own inherent strengths and acknowledgement of the areas that need help or assistance. You stand to improve your ability to interact with and influence the people, not only the people you work with, but also your clients, and even beyond that, your personal relationships as well. One last thing, I know I'm kind of going over here. You definitely need to be an individual who is open to constructive input and feedback, and willing to work towards self-improvement. And I'll just also emphasize again, the sooner you can open up to the vulnerability, sooner you can let down those defenses and fully engage with your fellow classmates, the richer and more productive the program and the ongoing dialogue will be for you. I think I've gone over. I'll stop there. I'll just want to share with everyone, please. I think Stephanie's going to provide contact information. If you would like to discuss anything in more depth or detail, don't hesitate to contact me.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Troy. All right, and I will do a real quick time check here. As you can tell, I think we all have a hard time constraining our enthusiasm for the program. So we are running a little bit late. So I just wanted to say, if you do have to jump off the phone at 1, like we said it was going to end, please do enter your questions here on the chat function. Enter your questions, document them so that we can get them in our queue. So we will go through the whole webinar, even if it goes past 1, and we will answer your questions. So when you get the recording, you can go back and listen to them. So please answer your questions, even if you have to jump off the phone. All right, and with that, we have our last alumni from last year, Heather Justice, who is a licensed geologist working as a water resource program analyst for Castle Rock Water. And she's our last alumni that's going to provide her perspective of the class. So Heather, are you there?
I am here. Thank you, Stephanie. Hello, everybody. I, too, like Troy, am an INTP. So you'll hear a lot about that, too. And I want to echo Logan's and Troy's statements, too, about Cheryl and Stephanie. The program is what it is because of them. And they are the heart and soul of the program, and they give us a lot of their time and experience and their knowledge and their love, and just kind of mold us into great little things. So
Thank you.
You're welcome. How did the Water Leaders Program impact my career? I mean, my first thought was, because I'm a perceiver, I was like, wow, how did it not impact my career and in my life? But I think the most obvious gain is the expanse of your Colorado water network. But it's a whole lot more than building your network. There's some pretty serious soul searching, some personal inventory completed while you're working on your homework assignments, completing assessments, setting goals, and working with our water leader peers. And really the key is to be open, be intentional, use the tools as you get them. Having transparency is key to building trust, make yourself vulnerable, and then pursue and embrace the differences in the class and in you, and build trust and allow all of this to enrich you holistically. So I referenced that I am an INTP for the Myers-Briggs score, and on the introversion, I'm a 20. I was the most introverted in the class. Just for a reference on what INTP, it's initially somewhat detached, indifferent, and impersonal, and likes to look at things logically and analytically. And then to top that off, my strengths are strategic, ideation, input, achiever, and relator. And my Enneagram is an effective achiever. So there's not a whole lot of open up and be cozy in there, in all those traits. And I admit I'm in my head a lot. My head is really entertaining. I'm never bored. I'm always trying to think and figure things out. And I have to tell you, that first day I was a mess. The first thing you do in the session is you talk about what you're up against professionally and personally. And, you know, everybody knows when someone's giving a glib or an authentic, unauthentic answer. And I did not want to be that person. I really had to go out of my comfort zone. And I'm so grateful that I did. I gained so much from being authentic and being vulnerable. And that first day, I was tired and emotionally drained, but it was well worth it. The career coaching from Stephanie and Cheryl is an invaluable experience. Cheryl has so many insights and understands the assessments and how they fit together to form the picture of you as an individual. The cohort experience, I have to disagree with Troy. I believe that the cohort team that I'm in is the best. Like finding your missing best friends that you didn't know you were missing. You go through the refiner's fire together, and you can't even imagine how much growth you have in those cohorts. And I can't imagine not having those individuals in my life. One of the things that I've really learned that I've been applying here at Castle Rock Water and in the water industry that I'm involved in is really learning how to listen to what people are saying to me. Instead of trying to be strategic and thinking of ways to fix their problems, and really learning how to say, you know, sometimes when someone's providing you feedback, it's just better to say thank you. So that, and acknowledge that you heard them. Sometimes, you know, we just are not going to learn less by listening. And I believe that that helps make me as an individual more approachable. The Harrison assessment was an eye-opener too, and I'm running out of time. So, and then one thing that I want to talk about just as that is just one consideration to think about as you are making this commitment is to make sure you have the time to put into this, and then are you ready for a life-changing opportunity? I think that's what I'll leave you with. Thanks,
Great.
Stephanie.
Thank you. So one final word, I'm going to open it back up to those three alumni, and I just want them to, they all provided a lot of really, really great context for you guys all as you're thinking through applying. But I just wanted to offer them one opportunity in one sentence to sum up what is one final takeaway that they would want all of you to consider when thinking about applying. So let's see, Heather, why don't you start with that?
Okay. When it comes down to it, if you want your life to be different, then you have to be willing to do something different. Are you ready?
Nice. All right, Troy.
Love it. If you wish to positively impact the future of water resources in Colorado and harbor a desire and willingness to grow personally and professionally, I sincerely encourage that you submit your application for the 2018 Water Leaders Program.
Awesome. And Logan?
So just these are lessons, skills, insights that you are going to take and move forward and to shape your personal and professional approach. And the work doesn't stop just when this session is over. It continues moving forward, and you need to put a lot of thought and consideration into where you want to go.
Great. Awesome. Well, thank all three of you for taking the time to share your experience. I know it is going to be beneficial for all our applicants. So thank you. Thank you. And they are going to be staying on the line. So if you do have questions specifically for any one of them, please type them in and I will direct them to answer shortly. All right, so the application process, there is a lot of information on our website on this, so I'm not going to go over it in a large amount of detail, but I do have some highlights and some things I want you all to think about and consider. So application materials are all online. They're due January 15th by midnight, so everything must be submitted to me. That is the completed online application as well as the 2 letters of recommendation. The online application is through SurveyMonkey, and it's one of those where there's required things, so you can't advance to see the next questions until you fill it all out. So there is online a PDF version where you can print out all the questions to prepare your questions, so you can then just copy and paste your answers into the survey when you're ready to submit. On that online app, there is a place that includes area for financial support. So if you are looking for potential scholarship or need some financial assistance, there is a question down there that you need to fill out. It's 100 words, so very simple need statements, but if you don't fill that out, then there will not be an opportunity for you to receive some potential scholarship funding that we might be able to contribute. The question or the application is 34 questions, but a lot of them are your name and employer, so a lot of them are just basic information. And the longest answer is a 200-word limit, so these are very short, concise answers that we want you to really focus on answering the question that you're looking at. The letters of recommendation must be mailed or emailed to me separately. They cannot come from you, so make sure that you direct whoever was writing those to my email address or our address, which is online. A couple things I just wanted to note really quickly before you consider applying. Check with your employer to make sure that no one else from your organization is applying. We will only accept one person from each organization into each class, and so if there's multiple, then you will be competing against each other. So work that out internally before you guys apply, and also check with them to see if they do have funds to support any professional development and learn the process in which you need to go through to get those funds. The selection process is very rigorous. We have a committee that helps us go through and score. So we do a blind scoring the first round that will eliminate your names from all of the materials, and you guys will all be scored on a very comprehensive list of scoring criteria. And then if through that we have some clarifying questions, we may need to follow up with you for a phone interview. So that's what you can expect for the selection process between January 15th and February 16th. It is a very, very competitive program. So as I mentioned when we started, there are over 75 people that have signed up for this call. This year, for the first time, we will be having 16 people in the class instead of 15. So that's exciting, but that still is very competitive. It is definitely not uncommon for people to have to apply for the program for multiple years. So if you do apply and don't get in, don't get discouraged. For those of you that are applying for a second time, we have changed the application just briefly. So make sure you go through and look at those answers. And really what we are looking for those repeat applicants is to see what you have done between the last time you applied and now to show your personal growth or your leadership. So we will go back and look at your past application and sort of compare your growth in between there. And each person that does not get accepted into the program gets a letter that has specific reasons why they didn't get into it. And so we'll look back at that letter to say what we told you that we thought were some areas of room for growth for acceptance into the program. And so we will be measuring that if you have applied in the past. And then we will be notifying everyone of their acceptance into the class February 19th. So that is an opportunity where we'll have like the full financial conversation. We'll talk about that in a minute. And where both of us would commit to each other shortly after February 19th, so that on March 5th, you all will get your first class packet of homework to do before our first session together, which is April 5th. All right, and the financial commitment. So tuition is $32.50, including all the training materials, the assessments, the coaching, and the meals. Just to make sure I'm not missing anything. The true cost of the program is really about $6,400. So we have worked to get sponsorships and other support, so the tuition is reduced. Travel is not included, so you should look at budgeting for mileage and food. You know the locations of all of the sessions that are face-to-face. You can budget for mileage. And then we would recommend about $125 a night for hotel. We do reserve a room block for everyone, so we can guarantee the cheapest rate in whatever location we're at, but that you guys are then responsible for securing your room and paying for it. The two of the hotels we have right now are each $109, so they're not even $125, but $125 would be safe. Scholarships are available. We will be and have been collecting contributions that go towards scholarships, and we will collect those up until we decide the class. And at that time, when we inform you of your admission into the program, we will let you know what scholarships are available. And at that time, you can then decide if you want to move forward with registering, or if it's financially prohibitive, then we can work out, we can try to work out something. Tuition or assigned payment agreement is due on March 30th. So if you, can't pay for it all up front, or your employer has different timing things with payment that needs to be arranged, that's fine. We just need to collect all of the tuition by the end of our fiscal year, which is the end of June, and we can set up a payment agreement. So real quickly, we're going to touch on some ideas for going out and soliciting financial support. So we have had a lot of people get really creative about how they get money for their participation in the program. And the biggest successes I've seen, so instead of asking for the full amount, ask to cover smaller amounts and collect those from a variety of different sources. For example, if you break it down, it's about $400 a day for the class. So maybe reaching out to a partner, or, solicit board members to say, okay, hey board, could each of you contribute, maybe one class day or one hotel night, that type of thing. That definitely goes off better than asking for the full amount. We have seen trends in the state of whole watersheds or entire river basins coming together to support sending someone from their basin as a group. So collectively, all the different organizations are pitching in funds so that they can grow their watershed leadership as a whole together. And so they're working collaboratively so that while one organization might not be able to support it, together they can, and they sort of trade off every year and identify who they're sending to apply for the program, as a coalition. And then I talked briefly about soliciting board members as well. So our last speaker for the day is Dennis Yanchunas, and he is the president of St. Brandon Left Hand Water Conservancy District, and he's going to be speaking briefly to you all on two different points. He is going to be speaking as essentially an employer. One of his executive director for St. Brandon Left Hand went through the program, and then since they have been sponsoring a participant from their watershed to participate. So I'm going to turn it over to Dennis to provide you a little insight. I would encourage you to take some notes, especially during this section, if you are soliciting some funding from people, because he's going to give you some insight on how they have benefited from that financial investment, and you can use that as sort of your talking points to soliciting funding. So Dennis, are you there?
I am here. Thank you, Stephanie, and I'm already out of time, but I'll forge ahead. First of all, our first experience with water leaders was in 2015 when our executive director, Sean Cronin, attended, and we were happy to send him to that. But I want to mention that prior to 2015, Sean had actually received the Emerging Water Leaders Award from the foundation for his work after the 2013 floods. And so keep a broad perspective of who this class can benefit, because Sean was far from a novice at that point. The other thing I would mention is Sean afterwards shared his personality profile and leadership information with me as his immediate supervisor, and that has just been an invaluable tool for us, that plus our monthly whiskey nights. But it has really been very, very helpful for both of us. And as I sometimes say, I have to work occasionally to prevent Sean from letting his strengths become a weakness on a given issue. But the district has benefited enormously. It was a fabulous investment for us, enough so that we followed up. The board approved a $2,000 annual scholarship if anyone from our basin were interested in attending the program. In 2016, we provided that scholarship to Julie McKay, who she worked for Boulder County in the transportation department. She was their planning division manager in the Boulder County transportation department. You have to understand, after the floods, and the St. Vrain and Left Hand were the epicenter of the floods, a lot of roads washed out, bridges become dams and create problems. And we really benefited from sending Julie to this program, not only through the leadership skills, but in that case, just developing a greater understanding of the water issues, because that was one of the big nexus between transportation and water as you're trying to rebuild the canyon roads and bridges, etc. So well worth our money and her effort. And then this year we sent Jesse Olson. One of the things that came out of the floods is the CWCB wanted river coalitions, and so we had this sort of new layer and lots of stakeholders, and how do you manage that? And one of the things the district felt is that it would be really good for us to have really good management on those coalitions, and so we sent Jesse, and in all cases we ask applicants to make a presentation to the board when they apply for the scholarship, and then we also ask them to come back afterwards. So if you refer to the slide earlier when you get a chance about what water leaders say and all those quotes, I will tell you, as an organization that has sponsored people, we observe those very things that people say they gain. So we're very supportive of the program, and I think it's great, and I would encourage all of you that are listening, give it real serious thought and think hard about how this is going to benefit the people when you start going out and asking for financial support. This is an investment in their future. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Dennis. That was amazing insight, and I hope that was all helpful for you guys. All right, so that leads us to the question time. I have been collecting questions along the way. I know some of you are jumping off, but we're going to continue to answer these questions to make sure they all get heard as you guys go back and replay them. So some of them I can answer pretty quickly. One of the questions was, how much travel is outside of the set dates? And so beyond traveling to and from the sessions, the only other travel that you might come up against is traveling to your cohort meetings. Not all the cohorts meet face-to-face, but if you do decide to meet face-to-face, depending on who's your cohort and where they live, there might be some travel associated with that. And then there also might be travel associated with your shadowing experiences. So everyone, like Cheryl mentioned, it has to do 2 shadowing experiences. Those can be water professionals from anywhere in Colorado. And some of those end up being a whole full day or sometimes multi-day long trips that you're shadowing someone. But sometimes it's just a phone conversation. And so there wouldn't be mileage associated. So beyond the actual days, it's going to be dependent on the commitments you make to either your cohort or the shadow experiences. Another question I got was, if you have ever taken a past leadership program, how will this differ? We mentioned it is very specific to the water industry here in Colorado. And so a lot of the exercises we do are around water content or water issues or themes that are happening in water. But if you have specifics on sort of what you've done in the past and maybe how that might differ, I would recommend you reaching out to Cheryl. Cheryl, I'm going to give everyone's contact information here. I'll just put that up now. So you'll have everyone's email address that is on the phone today you can reach out to. But I would recommend reaching out to Cheryl. directly, so you can, give her the specifics of the program that you've attended, and she can give you specific details back on how this would be different. So I hope that's okay, Cheryl, but I think that's the best approach.
Stephanie, this is Dennis. Might mute me.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you're unmuted. Did you want to say something?
I was unmuted, and I thought you should mute me.
Oh, okay. I can mute you. All right. Another question that we got is, if you have taken the assessments before, do you have to take them again? Would that reduce your cost? So there are, sometimes there are different variations of these different assessments that are out there, and the way that we compile all the information and create it into a larger package on self-assessment, the short answer is no. So essentially we budget that in, all of the costs are incorporated into the tuition, and you will need to retake those. Some people that have retaken, for example, Myers-Briggs, that's a common one for everyone. They've noticed some change since last time they've taken it, and so they're able to use the class and sort of speak to maybe some of that change that they've witnessed, or some, cool sort of revelations around it. Cheryl, did you have anything to maybe add to that? Oh, it looks like you're self-muted. Okay, cool. All right. What is the time commitment with homework? So the biggest time commitment up front is, or the biggest time commitment you're going to have beyond is the upfront homework and assessment. And I would estimate that that's about 5 hours of work between that March 5th date and that April 5th date. So there's those multiple assessments you'll have to take and the 5 dysfunction of a team. And then between that, it'll be about 3 to 5 hours in between sessions that include your cohort meetings and your coaching calls with Cheryl. That'll also include, any of the shadowing assignments that you'll have to do. That, again, will depend greatly on whatever shadow experience you're setting up with your shadowies. Does Cheryl or any of the alumni want to give a little bit of insight on homework commitments and balancing that?
Yeah, I can hop in, Stephanie. This is Cheryl. I think that the majority of the homework, or the largest commitment, is up front. So before we actually begin the program in April, and then between our first and second session, I would say it's the heaviest. What would you guys say?
Yeah, I think that that's true. And like this is Logan. I had mentioned earlier, the homework is not boring. I mean, it's really stimulating, and it's really interesting. So yeah, most of it was up front, and then there were just some like smaller reading things toward the end, like a few articles, and we actually added the Enneagram, and that was just an additional assessment that hadn't been in the past. So.
Great. Troy or Heather, any other insight on homework, balancing, work-life?
I would just say that it was, I found it manageable throughout the course of the program. Very manageable, very, very interesting, very fascinating. And, again, if you're invested in your own growth and participating in the process, then it probably won't be a hassle or a problem at all, I suspect.
And I agree too. It's well worth the time and effort it takes.
Awesome. All right, and it looks like I just have one more question. So if you're still on and have additional questions, please send them this way. Otherwise, our last question is preference given to past applicants. So I mentioned briefly that if you do not get into the program, you receive a letter that has a couple bullet points on what, why, you didn't get admitted into the program this year. And so we go back and look at that. There are instances where people that didn't get in last year were, really interested in how, they can, learn from that. And so I've sat down for coffee or, drinks or whatever with these people to talk about sort of how they not only can possibly get into the program next year, but how they can develop their personal leadership within the water community. And so sort of looking at some of those things. And so we do go back and look at your past application to see if we can see that growth and see how much of an effort you have invested in your personal growth between that time. And so is there preference given, like on paper? Like, you don't get extra points for scoring, but we do acknowledge the persistence in wanting to be in the program. And then naturally, if you have had a new leadership role or a new volunteer role or a new whatever it may be, then your score is naturally higher. And so I guess on paper your score is higher if you have worked on some of those things throughout the last year, but there isn't like extra points added to your score for past applicants, if that was what this person was asking. All right, and I think that is the last question. Just want to make sure I got them all. Okay, so with that, that's a wrap. Sorry we went a little late, but again, our enthusiasm for the program just could not be contained. So thank you so much for chiming in. Please go to our website for additional information. All the FAQ sheets, application materials, all that stuff is on there. You will be receiving this recording via email here by the end of the day or tomorrow. So use that as you need to for the applications. Please contact any of us. Me especially if you have program specific questions, but if you wanted a little bit more insight into, why someone should support you, reach out to Dennis. If you want to talk about program participation and what that looks like, reach out to Logan, Heather, or Troy. And Cheryl is always there to ask questions or answer questions about, the coaching process and the leadership development if you have some specific questions about that. So with that, thank you all of our panelists for jumping on, and thank you everyone else for your interest in the program, and good luck with applications. That's it.